That's an open-ended question that I just don't know the answer to. I mean, the thing is getting into SRO and meeting all the people that we've met, it does open other doors and opportunities to racing in other series. Like I had an offer to race in GT4. But it's just, like Scott said at the beginning of this year, I don't want to take a massive step without being a little more prepared than I was at the beginning of this. I wanted the experience, and I wanted to, a lot of times for me, if I put too much preparation in, I overthink it when I finally get to the actual event, and I just screw it all up. So for me, I wanted to jump in with both feet and just try to float to the surface somehow.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Use Apex 10 at checkout to save 10% on fueling your passion. If you want to help this podcast grow, share it with friends. Also, check out the Instagram page. I don't know when this episode's actually going to go out. Sometime in November, 1st or 2nd, maybe it's third week in November. We'll see, but by the end of the year, we're going to have a really good giveaway, so make sure you check that out. But on this episode, I want to talk about a driver's journey to the GR Cup. If you don't know what that is, you've been living under a rock, but you're going to learn. I have two guests joining me for this episode. Someone who I think is as much of a gold bug as me, maybe more, because he makes a living in that area. RSX driver turned GR Cup racer, Patrick Brunson. The other person is Brett Becker's favorite Honda Challenge driver. I'm convinced he has an oil rig in his backyard. And because his wife runs NASA Texas, he gets all the track time he could ever want. Scott Adams of Scott Adams Driver Development. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So now, Scott, you've had heard one of my my intros in person. So I didn't know how it was going to go over, but you weren't cursing in the background, so I'm okay with it.
That was pretty funny, actually.
So, Patrick, you haven't been on this podcast since episode 42. And in that podcast, you were a rookie. And we had just gotten back. Well, you guys drove from Texas to pit race, rest in peace, to do nationals. So what have you been up to for the last couple of years or year and a half?
Well, I'll start off by saying I never drove from Pennsylvania back to Texas. I can't make those long drives. It's
high society.
That's right. Pinkies up.
Yeah. Well, in Texas, they called me the arrive and drive king, but it's just work. I don't mind making the trip if I have the time to make the trip with the boys, because it's a boys trip every time we have a race weekend. But no, we've been up to a lot. I mean, we not only did we compete in the 2023 Nationals in the RSX, we've also spent the last, year and a half building another one, right, Scott?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to be identical to it. We ended up changing out the K20 engine to a K24, and we also mimicked that in the new RSX that we have, that we're running right now. And man, they're fun. They're so much fun. And those cars have taught me to deal with a lot of the diabolical volatility that these front wheel drive cars can have. And if you want to get one of these cars to turn, you got to make it as diabolical as possible. And Scott, man, he's a wizard at that. A lot of people in the NASA community across the nation know all about Scott and his DA and the fact that everybody calls it the widow maker. But he made these RSXs and set them up to where they could be a race car that just about any semi-quasi experienced race car driver could get in and drive it, but also the fastest drivers could get in and just make the car do something that somebody else did not think was possible. And so we're continuing with this particular platform. A lot of people said, especially prior to, I think it was 2022 when Scott put it on pole in Laguna. It was 22, right?
Sounds right.
Yeah, Nationals. A lot of people prior to that thought that platform just wouldn't work. And Scott just seems to have a niche on his shoulder to try and prove to people that when they say something can't work, that it can. Because, it's physics and engineering. But this platform and this car and the way that we've developed it is, or I should say the way Scott has developed it, has also taught me to be a much better, more methodical driver in other cars. And the way that you have to drive the car, it almost wants you to overdrive it, but the way it was developed allowed me to jump into other cars and immediately get up to speed with some of the other people that are driving the same machinery. Sometimes not as quick as who's in the front, obviously, but it just driving that car and the patience it forced me to develop is what allowed me to propel in other cars a lot quicker than what I had anticipated. With that being said, it kind of led me to wanting to jump into other endeavors, which led me to GR. And the reason why that stuck out so much to me, not only was because it was new, but because I was also driving GR86 cars that Scott also helped set up in time trial. And we had finally set up a GR car, and they worked so well and could take such a beating that I was able to put an extensive amount of seat time in the GRs that allowed me to test in a GR Cup car at Eagles Canyon for the first time earlier this year. And I ended up, my first session ever driving a GR Cup car, I was within a second of one of the GR Cup drivers that was driving the first two seasons. So that kind of sealed it for me to want to get involved in GR Cup, and jumped into it with both feet. And Scott was with me for all of the race weekends all year, coaching me, spotting me. And yeah, man, it's the last couple of years have been a blast. Been a big blast. And the fact that I get to get seat time in both NASA here in Texas, in both Honda Challenge and time trial, and I get to go do those weekends as well, as it's the seat time and the sim time that I also do with Scott and some other drivers have helped me develop a lot quicker than I had anticipated.
So I'm going to assume you spend a lot of time in the GR86 in iRacing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How does it compare with the actual GR Cup car?
So that was one of the things that me and Scott wanted to really pinpoint. I'll let him speak to this a little bit more. But when we started this, the first race was Sonoma earlier in the season. And we wanted to see what our times were on the sim and what the difference was as far as our times were in real life. And I'll let you speak to this, Scott, a little bit more. But for most of the tracks, we were within a second, in some cases within a half a second of our quickest times on the sim.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And even like the aliens that were getting on the sim with us and trying to practice that are like sim pros and whatnot. We would show up, and next thing you know, okay, the top five guys are literally running identical lap times to what the alien sim drivers were on the sim before we even got there. And what was super interesting in seeing kind of where Patrick started when we got to an event and where he finished when we finished the event, and it was all pretty much on par with where he started when he was on the sim and where he finished when he was on the sim. So it's a very reciprocal idea. Um, for all of us to be able to jump on the sim and go out there and have a good time and enjoy racing on the sim. But it's, it really is quite good. Um, Sonoma was, I think, one of the first tracks that got redone on iRacing, so it certainly made it even more accurate. Um, and as iRacing updates some of their tracks with some of the bumps or some of the curbing and some of the grass and whatnot, it'll continue to get better and better for everybody just because they're updating everything. It's just quite nice.
The one thing I will say, as far as the comparison from in real life in the car to on the sim, is iRacing makes the grass feel like complete ice. It's way overdone, way overdone, because we go in the dirt and the grass a lot in GR in real life, and it is nowhere close to what it's like on the sim. That being said, I still think that it's a good thing that it feels that way on the sim, because you need to be trained not to go out there. But it's not the same. The draft on the sim is way stronger than what I've experienced on the draft in real life. That could arguably be because of my driving, or an exit that I got from a specific turn was not as good as it could have been, or the difference between my car versus another. There's a number of different things, but to me, the draft seemed a lot stronger on the sim than it did in real life. I will say that the setup adjustments that you can make on the sim are absolutely dialed in with how the adjustments are made in real life. If you zero out a wing, there's only 3 different settings on the rear wing, for example, and they absolutely make a huge difference, and you feel it both in real life and on the sim. The front and rear bar, whether it's stiff or soft, the toe, the camber, and that's a lot of what I learned. And one of my biggest goals in GR this year was to learn the setup and how much I can adjust it or how little I can adjust it to make the biggest differences, to add or take away time in the lap. And being able to do that on the sim on my own time allowed me to develop different setups for each track, which I was able to, put in front of some of the other GR drivers to get their feedback. And it was a lot of fun really messing with that and really trying to dial in those things and understand it and the physics behind it. And I personally think that it helped me better in the car from the beginning of the season to where I ended up at the end of the season, for sure. So it was
And that's one major difference between what we have in the RSXs currently and what he has in the GR86 Cup car is that we're kind of maxed out right now with trying to make the RSXs turn. I would like for them to turn more. I think everybody else would not like them to turn more. They don't turn as well as what my DA does. But the GR86 is in an area where it can go either direction. And that certainly makes it to where we can overdo it in the 86, but we could also underdo it in the 86 and then make some adjustments to Patrick with his style and what he's doing with his brake releases and how quick he ramps in his steering angle and all of that general, driving techniques, what he's doing with his hands and what he's doing with his feet, we can come in and he can immediately ask for some adjustments. And we've got a great team with Eagles Canyon and those guys to make those adjustments for him so that he can be comfortable. Certainly in the beginning of the season, he made less adjustments in the car and we made more driver adjustments. And but as he got more acclimated to the car and the scenery and the competitors, we were able to try and work on the car a little bit more, which is the opposite with the RSX. Unfortunately, it's kind of, like I said, it's developed into a place where it's kind of maxed out until we find some ways to make the car turn even more. But yeah, we'll keep working at it.
And then I think that was one of my biggest learning curves this year. Is I've always been one to adapt my driving through Scott's coaching and adapt to the car. And getting into GR, messing with the setups. Like, for example, in Sonoma, we messed with the setup after every session. And a lot of times it was to Scott's, like, hey, you shouldn't touch that yet. But I chose to do it anyways because some of the other guys on the team were doing it. And at the same time, every single time I went out on track, it was a different track because the conditions were always changing. It was, raining, or it was just wet, or it was cold, or it was dry. And it got to a point where I felt that I needed to adjust to the car and then I could start making the changes. And I think had I learned or acknowledged that sooner, I probably would have done a lot better throughout the season. But it was one of the things I had to learn. I had to learn setup. And I think that it made me better in some cases once I got back into the RSX. But I'd only driven the RSX 2 times recently, and I'm excited to get back into it at ECR coming up. But yeah, learning setup and all the, it's very minimal changes comparatively speaking with the GR, but just learning those changes and what they could do and how I could adapt my driving to those changes was one of the biggest, I guess, learning points for me, or one of the biggest hurdles at the same time.
So I have a question for Scott, because you guys were able to sim a very similar car to what was on track. So how are you managing sim time and sim coaching I'm assuming you were collecting data or looking at the data and then looking at the data from the track in real life and able to apply that or help Patrick apply it?
Yeah, so cool enough. There's some fantastic apps.
Yep.
That if you put an app on your computer, we use an app called Garage 61, which I think is probably one of the most predominant ones across the country / world at this point for iRacing. And you put that app on your computer and it instantly turns your telemetry on while you're doing all of your iRacing sessions. And what it does is it enables, like, if let's say the 3 of us were on, we could look at your data, we could look at Patrick's data, I could look at mine, and all of the stuff gets uploaded onto a server where all of us can look at it all at the same time without having to send it back and forth. So that in itself is super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in addition, when the telemetry is on, you can also pull up your your AIM Race Studio 3 program and put it on your sim racing computer, and you can pull that up and look at it. Now, the one negative is that the data systems that we use in the GR86 Cup cars are, Bosch systems that are closed, but all of that data comes over into the V boxes that we're forced to use. So it's a little tricky to try and overlay some of those other data systems across the different platforms. But with, either multiple computers or setting up different screens, you can kind of overlay and see all of the different things kind of going on all at the same time. But But generally, if a driver is struggling with a brake release or with a particular, technique, you see it immediately in the data, regardless of whether it's on the sim or whether it's in real life. It is very transparent that the same errors happen. If a driver doesn't use all of the racetrack, this is a very simple one, right? If a driver doesn't use all of the racetrack on the left side of the car, when they're making left-hand turns, that basically means they're missing apexes, right? If they're not using all of the left side of the car when they're making right turns, that means they're turning in not all the way to the left. They might hit an apex, but then they're not tracking out on the exit. So you're 2 out of 3 versus 1 out of 3, right? So it's those tendencies are always still there, right? Whether it's in the sim or whether it's in real life.
Sweet. So were you able to find trends that over the course of, simming before you go to the track and then seeing the feedback from the track or the data at the track, and then you go to the next one, sim for that one, go to the track, race. Were there trends or predictable things you could cut off and start going, okay, we're having issues in the sim on XYZ. We have to work on that as soon as we get there.
I think probably, and I wouldn't necessarily say it more of a struggle. It's probably more of a like, man, why does the car get loose here every single time in the sim? And then all of a sudden you get to the racetrack in real life, you're like, oh shit, there's a hill here, or oh, there's a bump here that I didn't really notice that there was a bump there, but that totally makes sense now. Some of the curbs are maybe more abrasive in real life, and you don't really notice it so much in the sim, just because none of us are spending the crazy money on motion sims, which I kind of believe in not spending all that crazy money in it. But it's something that you'll notice immediately when you get on track somewhere. Um, and I'm sure, I mean, Patrick's the one, of course, in the cars for all of these, but I think that's the probably most noticeable comment when I'm traveling with anybody that I'm working with all over the country.
Camber of the track.
Is that the cambers, the curbs, the just the overall architecture of the surface, the little rises. Like Barber was one of the first ones I think Patrick ever really noticed, that it's like, wow, it's so close to the sim, but at the same time, like, you don't feel your stomach drop, right? When you're in the sim, you can kind of feel it in your hands, but man, when you're at Barber and you're driving the first couple laps, you're like, oh my gosh, the elevation is insane.
With a roller coaster at VIR, first time you do that in real life versus the sim.
Well, as somebody who's done it a million times, it's not that bad, but
yeah, calm down. That was my first time ever there, and man, that was a blast.
Yeah,
dude.
I'm sure. My thing with the sim is, so I've been in one of those full motion rigs. I was down at the Sim Seats showroom, and they had one with like all the haptics and pitching the chassis and all that stuff, and really without feeling the G forces, the movement made me feel nauseous. Like, I don't get nauseous in the race.
Yeah, and that's because it was probably wrong.
It's artificial.
Right.
Yeah, if a sim rig is set up properly with motion and all of the feedback is being sent in it correctly, it shouldn't make you sick. And that's the same thing kind of with VR. If it's slow, if the computer's not fast enough to send the information, if the screen isn't clear enough, right? The same kind of idea. So it's all about having all of that stuff work together. And that's why in a lot of cases, it's just better just to not have it. One big, huge, single ultra wide screen is generally better for the driving experience. That way the computer can operate at its, at its fastest speeds and give it its highest detail. But it makes it very challenging to race other cars with only one screen when you can't see the right mirror without having triple monitors. Um, but the motion is a completely different thing in itself. Now, I'll give you one little experience here. I took one of my really good friends, quite a good TT driver here in Texas, also a really good mechanic. We jumped in my NSX streetcar. We took a drive up to Dallas. I shoved him in a sim rig that I was evaluating for a customer client of mine, and he had never been in one before. And I had him jump on Lime Rock, our little go-to test track, in a GRA in a Global MX-5 Cup car, and just said, "Go drive. I want to watch this thing. I want to look at it move. I want to check and make sure nothing's broken, and I want to see if this thing is worth my buddy buying this rig." And Nate's ripping this thing around and having a blast, and he's like, "This is so cool! Like, this is awesome!" I'm like, "Okay, cool. All right." So we get in the car, we roll out. On our way home, I chuck him into a really nice, just finished built sim here down the street from where I live. No motion. Every single time that Nate went over the crest, over the uphill right, he wrecked the car every single lap on the sim that had no motion. Now, again, good motion versus bad motion. Good driver that's never driven a sim before wrecked it every single time on the sim without motion, and never wrecked it once going over the crest at Lime Rock on the motion sim. So that's one of those real tells. I would always tell somebody to jump on these motion rigs, jump on something you know. So Lime Rock Park is always my test track. Anytime I go anywhere and work on somebody's sim stuff, we go to Lime Rock, we jump in GR86 or a Global MX-5 Cup car, and we rip it around because we know it. It's our test track.
So let's talk a little bit. This is another question I have for you, Patrick. What made you go down the GR path instead of something like the Radicals or a Rush car?
Or TA2.
I was this close to doing the Rush thing, actually, but right when we were considering it, there was the fuel tank scenario. I went mainly with GR Cup because Eagles Canyon is out here. It's about 4 hours from where I live, and I became a member of Eagles Canyon. And while I was out there, obviously, Eagles Canyon has Eagles Canyon Racing, which is the race team for GR Cup and some other series. And one of the other guys that I drive with in NASA, Texas, is he had bought a couple of GR Cup cars for him and his two boys to drive because they had already had a couple of TT GR 86 cars that I had personally driven in TT as well in NASA, Texas. So short answer is familiarity. Familiar with the platform, and Jeff, the gentleman who bought these GR Cup cars, he was wanting to run GR Cup. He ran a couple of the races this past season. He's a Legends driver. So anyone over the age of 45 is in GR Cup is a Legends driver, which is a separate class. But he had the other car. None of his boys were going to run it. So I was like, hey, let me run that one. And we worked out a deal, and I got to run 5 out of the 7 race weekends in his GR Cup car. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it. It kind of happened all really, really fast. I think
it happened way too fast.
Yeah.
We were not really prepared for
we
that.
weren't even thinking about doing it at the beginning of the year. It was like everything happened all at once. And I just, in those scenarios, I've always been the type that kind of, maybe we'll step back and do it. I've always been the type that's like, no, the opportunity is presenting itself. Screw it. Let's do it. Let's just see where it goes. And so Scott was like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. You want to do it? We're doing it. And here we are.
So you said it happened too fast. What?
I tried to talk him out of it multiple times. Let's be clear.
Let's set this up. This is you're the arrive and drive king. So this is an arrive and drive for you, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So what part of it happened too fast? And Scott, why would you want him? Why did you try to talk him out of it? I guess Patrick can go first. What do you think happened too fast? And then.
So it was really just me. Actually, I was working with another friend that I was bringing over from motorcycle racing to wheel-to-wheel road racing in cars. I was at Eagles Canyon with him one day, working with a actual H2 car that he had bought. And I was working with him, trying to get his car dialed in. Scott was there too, as well. And there was a GR Cup car there in the garage, and I was looking at it and peeking at it. And I guess the GM for Eagles Canyon, he was out there, and I asked him if I could just sit in it because I wanted to see what it felt like. And before I know it, I was talking to him about GR Cup, and I was like, "Oh, well, that'd be fun to do." He's like, "Well, you can do it with us." And one thing led to another. Jeff had a car ready. I was like, hey, Scott, I got a great idea, which he was like, no, that's a really bad idea. You should wait. But it's just everything lined up for me. And, Scott's like, you know what? You want to do it? I'll let Scott say the rest. But anyway. Yeah. I'm not getting any younger, Scott.
Yeah, he's not getting any younger. I've always been more about let's be over prepared and let's make sure we're ready when we go kind of thing than let's just wing it. And the good news about Patrick is that Patrick works hard. And the longer he's in something, the better he gets, right? He's pretty talented guy. And I trusted that he would make good decisions and keep the car intact for the most part, and that he would allow us to work slowly at trying to gain speed. Without yeah, right. I'm glad this video is recorded so you can see his face right now. He's actually turning red over there. But it's that over practice, make sure you're ready, make sure you're over prepared, is always been my mentality in whatever sport that I've participated in, whether it had been the tennis or whether it had been the driving. That's just the way that we always try and work. I just think we could have had him better prepared with cheaper practice. We could have tested more at Eagles Canyon. We could have driven a whole season with NASA in NASA, Texas. We could have brought the car around to some of these racetracks during some of the other regional NASA events, maybe even some super tour events, and gotten our feet wet at some of these tracks in person without spending all of the big money. But at the same time, it's a bigger time commitment. There was a lot more to it to try and get it done, and it worked out for Patrick. He had some help with the business, and it all just sort of came together. So it was pretty tough to say no, and I certainly wasn't going to let him do it on his own. I would hope that there were less damage because I was there than if I wouldn't have been there at all. But yeah, that's just.
So
Scott, he also coached drivers at TA2 as well, so he had a lot more experience in some of these, the majors, if you will, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, there's a lot of mistakes that I would have made. There's a lot of driving errors that I would have made a lot worse, or I would have done it as nearly as well or got to where I was if Scott wasn't there. And that's one of the biggest things for me is proper coaching. in my mind, having the proper coaching can help you get a lot further, a lot quicker. And there were some weekends like Barber, we managed to knock 3.5 seconds off our time just by coaching and figuring out how to make the setup work better for me. And that's probably one of the biggest things for me this season, and how I was able to get up to speed so much quicker throughout the week, because you only get so many sessions. It's not, where I show up on a Friday and we get 5 sessions, 40-minute sessions, 30-minute sessions, whatever they are. You get 2 sessions of setup, tech, and then 2 practice sessions, and then it's qualifying. And some of these tracks I'd never even been on. So doing the sim work, doing the coaching with Scott, and really dialing in my technique. Like when you look at some of my data from the beginning of the season compared to where it was at the end, he was right. I probably shouldn't have done it, but it was at the same time. I can still say that he's right. When I dive into something like this, I'm going to put in the work, and focusing on really fixing the technique from throttle application to trail braking. I ended up moving to left foot braking, and as well as blipping the car in downshifts, which nobody does hardly at all in the series, if at all. A lot of them left foot brake, but there's just a lot of things that we were able to dial in and really make me a better driver, to where, I'm diving in next season to do it again as well. So yeah, it was, I dove in the deep end, but
You didn't drown.
I didn't drown. Exactly. And I didn't drown because obviously I had Scott there. So
He tried to drown a couple times.
Yeah.
There was some resuscitating done.
It's all on YouTube too for everybody to see.
So, okay. So you are in for 2026, right? For GR Cup? Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's good to hear. So what driving techniques, skills, you mentioned left foot braking, you mentioned blipping, but what else did you learn? What was there, like racecraft you had to change because of the series, the specness of the cars? Like what did you really learn this year, and what are you going to apply for next year?
Oh man, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's a little bit everywhere. I mean, and that's he doesn't really have, and I'll jump in here for you here, Pat.
Yeah, I'd rather you answer that. 'Cause
He doesn't have any one just massive glaring area that he has to work on, and that's the crappy part about it. It's just a little everywhere, which some of it's just being a little bit more comfortable. Patrick's military background is where he gets all of his hard work from and all of his discipline. But, he also can be a little bit angry from time to time and, get a little bit aggravated with the situation that's in front of him. And I've got another very talented athletic person that Patrick was lucky to meet a couple days ago with Jared Audrick. And ex NFL football player, and it's a very similar mentality. And it was super cool that the two of those guys got to meet, because they're almost identical in what they have left to work on. And it's just all the fine details, trying to do what they're supposed to do every corner, every lap for 70 minutes for Jared and the TA2 series. And for Patrick, it's 45-minute races for him every single lap. And not to get distracted, not to get disoriented with all of the other cars on track, right? Trying to manipulate, his technique when he's in a crowd to where he still has good entries and good exits. It's just all those little details. But ultimately, we've got about a second a lap that we need to pick up. And if he picks up a second, then we're up there with the front runners. And that's really what we're trying to take a look at, right? Just statistical. The statistics show that he's about 2 seconds off of the alien pole. And in race pace, we're about a second off of the alien lap. And those top 5 guys are all just right there. And with as many people that are super talented in that series, as well as the TA2 series and Global MX5 Cup, that's what it is. It's those 1/10 in this corner. It's that 10th over in that corner. You drive 10 corners and there's your second.
Yep.
So it's really just trying to feel that tire and trying to understand what tire to pay attention to the most when you're in certain corners. And if you're anxious or angry, you don't feel the tire very good. If you're trying too hard, you don't feel the tire very good. It's back to the simple stuff, looking ahead and making sure you're not over squeezing the wheel. You don't have any feedback in your hands, and you don't have any feedback in your arms, and your inner ear works worse and your eyes work worse if you force things. It's just it's all those simple pieces.
Yeah, he's describing it pretty well. It's letting everything come to you, and it's more about anticipating what the car is going to do rather than reacting to it. And I think that, conditioning had a lot to do with it too. I did a lot of sauna training, and I worked at getting my heart rate down to where it would stay below 140 throughout the entire race. That way, because Scott told me earlier in the season, once your brain gets past 160, closer to 170, once your heart rate does, your brain starts to operate at a far less capacity. And so I started training a lot on trying to get my heart rate down. That way I could naturally focus on those things. And it was difficult. God, it was difficult at VIR in the middle of summer.
Yeah, I've often said I'm never showing my doctor the watch of my watch data from a race weekend, right? Like, they don't want to see that. And
yeah.
We want to see it. You need to put it up on the board right now.
Yeah, I'll give you the funniest part is I'll be 160, 170 before we roll off of false grid. And then as we go around and warm up, it starts coming down. And then I get a little blip somewhere when we're racking and stacking, because we do standing starts in the Mid-Atlantic region. I get a little blip, that pulse of adrenaline or whatever is pumping through, because I'm waiting to see the start stand raise the green flag. But by turn 1, I'm usually at like 145-ish is where I usually sit for the whole race. And it doesn't really matter what's going on with me in the car. I'm really pretty calm in there. I did notice.
That's solid. That's a solid.
I did
number.
Notice, like you had said, that like over gripping the wheel. Actually, last winter, I changed the wheel on my sim to a formula wheel for 2 reasons. One, I was trying to keep myself from shuffling,
pull down, baby.
And then also, I deleted the area where my thumb can go, and so it's forcing me not to thumb over and not to like just squeeze hard, right? So I worked hard just on that grip, but I can tell you, like, early in the season, I will get tired. You'll see me rest my head against the halo in the car sometimes, and I know that I'm out. Like, if I put my head against the halo, I messed up, right? So you're right. You have to train for this stuff. You have to be ready for all of it, all the G's, be ready for all the sensory input. And really, it's a bandwidth thing. That's what I always hear. It's a bandwidth thing. And I believe it. As soon as you get overwhelmed or tired or whatever, you stop picking up all the cues that you need to pick up to go fast. So.
Yeah, for sure. And when you're racing against some of Weston Workman, Fletcher, he just won. Like, these guys are champions in some of these leagues. And so these guys are at the peak in some cases. They're at the peak of their game right now, and they are on point. And so that's why I had to do a lot of, I had to sacrifice time at home to train for that stuff. But I think sauna training was a big, big help because of how hot it gets inside the cab of the GR car. I mean, the heat compared to the heat in the RSX is brutal. Brutal.
I mean, you're sitting right next to the transmission. And, the exhaust has got to go somewhere.
We had to put and that was one of the things that I had to figure out. I had to put a pad on my leg under my race suit because when I started left foot braking, naturally I would rest my leg against the well
the trans tunnel.
And it was the trans tunnel, and it was so hot that before I put that pad on, I think I have a scar from a burn. Anyway, it would burn my leg that badly. And it would get so hot in that trans tunnel that even the shifter, I remember one time coming off I think it was Sonoma, it might have been Coda, coming off track, came in, took my gloves off because they were just so soaked. And then I went to grab the shifter to put it into neutral once I got into grid or where I forgot where I was parking at. I think it was right after
impound or something. Yeah,
I think it was the data draw area. But I burnt my hand so bad, I still have a scar from it. There's a scar. I burnt my hand from just grabbing the shifter without a glove. But yeah, it's the heat, and it was just using a sauna. You can get a $250 sauna on eBay, and that's what I used to prep myself for it.
So do you put the mobile sauna next to your sim rig and hotbox the room?
It's funny you say that. So I just moved here in this new house, but my old house, my sim room was the room above my garage, which was really hot. It gets, over 100 degrees here in Texas. And I would purposely not turn on the AC up there and sim up there, just practicing, getting ready. And I'd come downstairs sweating my ass off. And my wife was like, "What the hell are you doing up there?" But yeah, I'd wear the heart rate monitor just to see where my heart rate would get while I was doing a sim race, So some people obviously pay close attention to it, but I think the more people would pay attention to their heart rate while they're in the race car, they can make a lot of changes to their driving just because of their focus and their conditioning. If they find a way to bring that down, it can change a lot of things. Because Scott's right, you're paying attention to so many different things while making a corner that one little thing that you forget to do or not put your eyes in the right spot because you're, whatever the case may be, that it makes a second with 10 corners. That's a second lap. So
I'm well aware. It's really easy to be that just a little bit off pace in every corner and pay for it by the time you cross the finish line. So, 1 mile an hour on entry.
Yep.
If you can carry it just 1 mile an hour per corner, man, it turns into something. It's real. So, and it's really hard to feel that 1 mile an hour you need to pick up, right? It's so finite that it's really hard to chase that. So,
yep.
So my other question is, how spec are these cars in real life? You said in iRacing you get 3 things to change, but what are you allowed to do to these cars in real life?
Nothing.
Yeah. The engines are sealed. You can go into that, Scott, but there's not a whole lot that you can change.
Yeah, adjustability, yes. There's plenty. There's toe everywhere. There's caster there. There's camber everywhere. There's wing angle, but there's ride height everywhere. But yeah, essentially, these cars are some of the hottest cars. I don't know if you've ever ridden in any of these GRs during the like Toyota, um, you know, the GR experience stuff at any of these NASA events or any of the Supras, but they just don't
Hmm.
flow air well. Um, they buff it and make all kinds of wind noise, and the air just gets suffocated inside the cockpit, and they're so hot. Like I didn't believe Patrick. I'm like, it can't be that hot. And I reached my hand in there. I'm like, holy shit! Like everything is on fire in here. And even the chill out systems that everybody's running in the cars are overheating and will hardly keep up with any of the drivers. It's been a thing. It's been a very tough scenario, and you know those are probably the things that I'm frustrated with the most. Like I know that we can make an impact on how well Patrick drives and you know what we're doing when we're at the track, but I mean there were weekends where I'm like I can't keep him cool enough. Like everything was about after we got out of the car was about trying to keep every bit of everything simple, from even just going out to dinner, right? His wife just kept everything simple for him. You know, we made all the decisions for him. We carried all of his gear everywhere. Like, and I literally felt like I was back on the tour coaching tennis, where we took everything away from the player, and all they had to do is think about their physical exhaustion and trying to mitigate all of it, because it was just so brutal. Um, and the TA2 cars are as brutal as any race car could ever be as well. And we have that kind of mastered and nailed down over the years of working in them. But holy crap, these cars are just insanely hot too, for just being a little dinky 200 horsepower car, right? That started off as a $30,000 car off the street. It's the hottest damn thing in the world.
Yeah, I drive a stagnant car, so I get it. When we go under, like at VIR, you know, they do the code 35 virtual pace car stuff. And when that occurs, I got to stick my hand out the window and funnel air into the car,
Yeah.
because at that speed, nothing's coming in. So I get it. I don't think I can still touch my shifter, but you know, cable shifting life and stuff. So
I mean, the chill out suit actually worked, you know, while I was at Grid. That's
really,
about it. About 15 minutes into the race, it was so hot in there you couldn't even feel the chill out suit anymore.
okay.
It was still doing work, but
Yeah.
it was not. He could not feel it in that regards. But as soon as they start slowing down and the in lap, all of a sudden everything starts to catch up again. But yeah, the chill out was like at 70 degrees while he was on track flying around, and it would finally go down to in the 40s once he'd come off the racetrack again. And that's, you know, running it as with as much air to it as possible. We were not running it as a 24-volt system like we do in our home cars, and that's the way that we run them in all of the TA2 cars. And we were really close to piggybacking two of the chill outs in unison together, to keep up, and that would have done the job. But we did not get to that point where we were able to throw a second chill out in the car to try and keep them cool. But
So
it was
I
close.
I don't have a chill out. I don't have that kind of money, but I have one of those homebrew throw the ice in the cooler setups, and I run it on a momentary switch on the steering wheel. So when I want it, it pulses, because I learned that if I kept it on and turned it on, it would run out, you know, halfway through the race. But if it's on a momentary where like
Right.
I'm going down the straightaway, I can hit the button, I can look look around more. There's more breathing room, and I use it in those moments that even when I come off track and I need a bump, we get held up coming off the track, so they could release because we roll on, roll off, that it's still ice cold. So
Do you also have a water jug that you like, a drink tube or a?
I don't carry any water with me.
No.
One time I did keep a beer in my cooler because, well,
That's very common. That's very common in Texas. We got a lot of Spec Me Out of drivers that keep 6-pack in their
well, I mean,
cool boxes.
so when you get
It's their ballast.
So it's ballast, and then on the Saturday race when you're going to impound and you crack a beer, they're going to be like, "What, were you racing with that, or did somebody hand it to you?" And then you can just open up your cooler and be like, "It was with me the whole time, I promise." So
Yeah.
So, we're doing 2026. Here's a Honda Challenge question for you. Have you marked Sebring on your calendar yet, both of you?
Yes.
It's on there.
It's on there.
Come on, Scott. You have 2 RSXs, a DA. You can make it.
It's on there.
Well, that actually has a lot to do with Patrick's GR86 Cup schedule. So, there were some issues with trying to get the national championships kind of scheduled for this year, and Sebring ended up being the powerhouse track chosen, right, for nationals. Unfortunately, the weekend that has been chosen is Barber GR86 Cup weekend, same simultaneous weekend. So we're still taking a look at what we're going to focus on and what we're going to do between the two of us. We will have our NASA Texas drivers prepared and ready to go for Sebring, with or without Patrick and I. But if Patrick chooses not to go to Barber for GR, then you can rest assured that we will be there in full force.
You guys turn up the wick on your oil rigs, and we'll get you a private helicopter that will fly you in between Barber and Sebring, so you can make sure you hit up both tracks and get to both setups.
Hey, you're kidding about that a little bit, but we had one of our TA2 drivers that I've been very blessed to hang out with, Tristan McKee and Carson. They flew in from the ARCA race in Phoenix and got to the COTA TA2 race within like 30 minutes or an hour of their qualifying. Now, qualifying got canceled, and unfortunately, the boys had to start from the back. But that's that life. I'm not sure if Patrick and I definitely don't live that life.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I want to do nationals at Sebring because I didn't get to do Sebring with GR this past season. That was one of the 2 races that I missed, and GR is not going back to Sebring in 2026. So I'm really thinking nationals is going to be more important to me than Barber for GR this year. So,
but we'll see. We'll see how the beginning of the season goes, and if things are going well, then we'll keep making our decisions up. But
they can always change.
Yep, we'll be ready to do both, and we'll figure out what the season ends up bringing.
So, is there anything that we missed covering the GR Cup this year that you wanted to talk about?
And the kids are fast. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. God.
Patrick's like the 4th or 5th oldest guy out there, and trying to get further up the pack, which is it's pretty rough. And every single season of that series, it's going to be rough because there's just another new amazing kid that's going to come in. And really between the three major series with Global MX5 Cup, GR86 Cup, and TA2, those three series are where all the hotshot kids are coming and are always going to be there.
Yep.
So if there's ever a series that somebody wants to tinker in, it's one of those three. And one of the things that we'll both be able to say is that we met some really fast kids, and a lot of these kids we're going to get to watch on television for the rest of our lives.
Yep. For sure.
Um,
For sure.
and that's probably the special thing for me. And then to continue to try and make Patrick part of that sequence. And there's no doubt in my mind that if he spends a couple more seasons in this, that we'll get closer and closer to that kind of elite stature of that kid group. We'll pick another half second to a second off next year. We'll pick another half second off the following year, and each year will be another dive at another little piece of lap time, and it'll be there. Very similar to Barry Bowes and very similar to Mr. Roderick. Just trying to make those dents.
Yeah, and I would say, like Scott said, we got to spend this last weekend at Indy with Carl Edwards and his son Michael Edwards, who raced with us on our team for the final race. So we've gotten to meet some really cool people. Rutledge Wood, he raced this season. It's a really cool series. I'm just real happy and blessed that I've been able to be able to take advantage of the opportunity, and especially be able to do it with Scott, who's been with me since I was cording tires in my M5 at Coda. So I would say that this series, as I'm sure MX5 and TA2 can really teach. There's a lot of guys that think they're the fastest drivers in the world out there. And when you get into a series like this, it will humble you very quickly. And the majority of the season, out of 35 drivers, I was between 15th and 20th. And one of my two biggest goals were to learn the setup as much as possible and to get a top 10 finish. And sure enough, on the last race at Indy, I was able to finish 10th. And so it's been a really surreal experience, but a big learning experience. And I'm trying to do the best that I can to take everything and really reflect and then apply it towards 2026, because it's just been one of those situations where you want to make sure you remember it, because the older I get, I got kids that are young, and pretty soon they're going to be taking up all the weekends. So I just want to reflect and apply it towards next year and make the best out of it. So
awesome. So here's another question that I didn't ask earlier, but what your success in 86 Cup as it increases, right? You got your top 10. Now you're going to raise the bar some more. What driving goals do you have past 86? Do you want to use this as a stepping stone?
I hope not.
I definitely want to test in TA2. I definitely want to test there. But that's an open-ended question that I just don't know the answer to. I mean, the thing is getting into SRO and meeting all the people that we've met, it does open other doors and opportunities to racing in other series. Like, I had an offer to race in GT4. But it's just, like Scott said at the beginning of this year, I don't want to take a massive step without being a little more prepared than I was at the beginning of this. I wanted the experience, and I wanted to, a lot of times for me, if I put too much preparation in, I overthink it when I finally get to the actual event, and I just screw it all up. So for me, I wanted to jump in with both feet and just try to float to the surface somehow. And I feel like I did a good job with that for the most part. And I think that's going to help me go into the 2026 season a little more prepared to not be reactive and and anticipate more going into this next season. But
Yeah. And the bottom line is that in a lot of these series that are regarded as moving up, as you described, you're sharing now a car with somebody else.
mm-hmm,
You're the money already kind of dilutes a lot of the talent pool
mm-hmm,
in a lot of ways already. Um, and let's face it, right? Like I said, those three series that I pre-named, Global MX5, GR86 Cup, and TA2, are some of the most difficult series that anybody could ever compete at as an amateur older gentleman driver.
to compete.
There's nothing
Yeah,
harder that will ever be to try and compete at than these three series.
yeah,
You go up, you're just spending more money to drive against less talent. Now there might still be there's still talent up there, don't get me wrong, but all of a sudden you're just paying more money to not drive as much and share a car with the pro. Um and let's face it, those pros are the same pros that you're racing against, that you literally drive the whole time against in those other series, right? I mean, the Connor Ziliches, that it's just not, you're never going to run against somebody that's faster than that kid. The Tristan McKees, right? The
yep.
Workmans, um, Lucas,
The
like
Fletchers,
it's
yep.
just, you're never going to drive against somebody that's as fast as those kids just by paying more money.
Yeah, I think that's
And those kids are definitely getting better, don't get me wrong. So as they continue to get nurtured and improve, they're going to get a little better, of course. But they also drop off the face of the earth too,
yeah, or
right? Because a lot of those kids will run out of money and they won't be doing this any longer. And that's because they have to spend more money to go further. I'm not totally sure that some of these kids shouldn't stop and stay where they are and make a name for themselves, winning Global MX5 Cup championship after championship or GR86 championship after championship. Like, why does there need to be a statement of let's move up? Like, let's just dominate the series and let's show everybody how good we are here and continue to be the best and make a name for yourself there. Um, and I think an amateur like Patrick and any gentleman drivers like ourselves can work hard at something like this and make our name as being one of the best drivers in that series and be just fine, never going anywhere. It's my belief in Spec Miata or in Honda Challenge in certain areas in the country in NASA and SCCA. Like, why do you need to do anything else? It's so competitive the way it
Yeah.
is.
There's a lot of
Why do
drivers.
anything else?
There's a lot of drivers like in Honda Challenge and Spec Miata that would blow some of these guys out of the water in GR and MX5 Global and some of the other series. But they don't have the funding to get there, and they're dominating and enjoying it in some cases more than what we're doing in GR. But Scott's right. Sometimes it's just about dominating the series that you're in, man, and being where you're supposed to be. The door opened for me. I took it. I had the resources and the ability to run with it. Maybe Scott didn't think I was ready. I probably wasn't. But, man, it's just sometimes when the opportunity knocks, you got to answer. And that's what I did. And I think it was a great year.
Yeah, and I if we had all of our Honda Challenge people all competing all at the same time all year this year and last year and the year before, like Patrick would have been better for it, right? We've had a rough couple of years in our region just with people having hurt cars and me being busy and not racing a whole lot. But all of those things contributed to Patrick not having as much, competition. And you guys are lucky out where you are, right? You guys have a stout Honda Challenge field where you guys get pushed every single weekend. We have that with Spec Miata out here where we are. And maybe it would have been better to have Patrick running Spec Miata the entire time. If I had known that this is what he wanted to do the whole time, then that's probably where I would have put him. But and that's kind of where I'm at with not really being prepared. If I'd have known a year before or 2 years before that this is what he wanted to do, then we would have put him out in that fight from the very beginning. I don't know if Patrick realized it, but Max Stallone, one of our Spec Miata badasses from our local area here, he just won the Mazda shootout a couple days ago.
Yep. Yesterday.
Max jumped into GR86 Cup, and I said to everybody, like, this kid's going to be good. He only did a couple of GR86 Cup races during the year, but he was just a tick quicker than Patrick at every event, like a quarter of a second to half a second a lap for pole laps. And that kid just won the Mazda shootout.
Yep.
Right. So again, we're putting bar against bar to kind of see what talent level we are versus what the cream of the crop is. I mean, the kid can drive. So it's going to be real exciting to see how Max does, and it's going to be real exciting to see where Patrick is next year. And I think Max is going to do a little bit of both. I think he's supposed to do some global MX5. I think he might end up doing some more GR86, but he needed to keep his rookie status. So he kind of quit at the end of the year. So it's those kinds of things that, just kind of go around. We'll be around too. We'll get to see all the cool stuff, all the cool kids.
Yeah, it sounds like a great time. If you can swing it and it's what you want to do, why not, right? Like, if that opportunity is there, why not take it? I'm with you.
Well, we were super close to loading up the cars and sending Albert in the 2-car trailer out to Summit Point with you guys.
Oh yeah, I was this close.
And then we realized that it just wasn't going to work. We got some of the weekends, I think, backwards, but we were super busy with. I certainly was between TA2 and GR86 Cup. We were out of VIR a couple times, and between Barber and back and forth, and
we'll
come
get you from Dulles Airport. Don't worry about it. Just do it next time. I mean, 90% of the race field had to drive past Dulles Airport to get to Summit Point from their house. So, they would have picked you up. It would have been awkward with, a heavy duty truck and an enclosed trailer in the pickup line, but they would have done it. No big deal. But
other than Sebring for Honda Challenge, what's the word on the street where everybody is going to go and there's going to be a huge turnout? Anybody know yet?
I don't know if people. It looks like there's a late Sebring event this year. Is it December that they do a Sebring event? Some of the guys may go down for it. And then, but there won't be many, right? I don't think there's any Honda Challenge cars in the Florida region. So they'll all be imported. Mid-Atlantic doesn't have their schedule for the exact weekends yet, but it looks like the spring. If anybody's going to practice from my region or the Northeast, they're going to practice in April at Sebring. And then outside of that, I don't know what the other dates are yet. I just know there's an April Sebring that everybody's eyeing if they're not going to make the December Sebring.
Well, keep us posted, because if we don't end up making it out to Sebring, we'll throw the cars in the trailer and we'll make the haul out. I might even do an arrive and drive with Patrick.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer, and maybe you noticed this while you were racing. in the GR Cup this year, but the bigger the field, the faster you have to go. There's always somebody chasing you, and there's always somebody to chase.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and man, it's there's nothing relaxing about any of it. And I say that because sometimes, you know, depending on how many people you have in your field, sometimes you're doing a one-man race and you're out there all alone. But man, in GR Cup, you are always on somebody's ass or somebody's on yours.
Okay, so the Summit Point crossover event with 22 cars, I think 23 cars were on schedule, but one didn't make it. Baldridge didn't make it out of Ohio. So 22 cars, my car is broken, and we didn't fix it until the Saturday race. So we do practice, qualifying, race on Saturday, qualifying race Sunday, afternoon race on Sunday. So we do it backwards from you guys. And I didn't know if my car was going to work, but I was starting from the back, and I was like, I took it as our national championship, right? Like, how many times are we going to get 20 plus cars together? So I wasn't going to let it go. And in amidst all the chaos, it was still calming. I couldn't have had a better time, even with all the crazy stuff going on with my car. Once it got fixed, like, there was nothing better. So,
yeah, you know what? And I can say the same thing happened with me at Sonoma. I had wrecked and put the car in the wall during qualifying. It was a torrential rain session, and had to start in the back because I caused a red flag. Started in 35th, had nothing to lose, no pressure, nothing's against you.
Finished 15th,
Finished
the same spot
15th.
he finished when it was in the dry.
Yeah, but yeah, if you can go to the Brunson Motorsports YouTube channel. I'll have the link for the races there if anybody wants to watch them. And yeah, stay tuned for some updates as far as the 2026 schedule as well. And one thing that we do want to put out, and I'll let Scott speak to it, is a new iRacing league that he started. So I'll let Scott speak to that.
Yeah, so basically we've got, between a couple of the different drivers that I've had the pleasure to work with, including Patrick, we've kind of put together this really cool schedule with Mr. Dan Parmalee kind of in charge of it for me here. We do like an 8-hour Monday practice, and then we do a 7-hour qualifying on Tuesdays with a 1-hour race at the end of it. Mainly just set up for everybody to just have time to be able to jump on and practice at any time. You can get on and jump on with comms and like, hey, let's go out together. Like, everybody go to the pits. Like, it's basically like a free for all test session.
Turns the damage
And
off. Like, it's
yeah. So if you accidentally run into each other, no big deal. Like, just gather each other out of the grass and kind of giggle about it and like, okay, let's try not to do that again. But it really is kind of geared towards Patrick's schedule. A lot of what NASA's schedule is nationwide. We're going to be looking at all of the hotspot big events, whether it be a Sebring event or a Summit Point event or a Watkins Glen event or Mid Ohio or even the Sonoma stuff on the West Coast. Marie does a really good job of making sure that once all of the schedules are announced, she puts a master list of the entire country together so that anybody can see it and have access to it. And we're going to be building the schedule that will be composed of the TA2 schedule, Patrick's GR86 Cup schedule, and the NASA schedule nationwide. And anybody can join. They just need to put in the request. It's set up right now under NASA Texas or Scott Adams driver development. And if anybody basically puts a a request in, we'll just hit accept and get somebody in. And that's not just for racers for NASA. That's also time trialers or HPDE drivers. We're using it as basically a test bed to try and get some of the HPDE guys better and more practice so that they can get their licenses sooner. I use it especially here in Texas as a bit of a gauge to know what the abilities of some of these guys are. And it like we noticed with Patrick with GR86 Cup and everybody else that if they're running certain lap times, their gap to the leaders are the gaps to the leaders. So an HPDE2 person is certainly going to be multiple seconds slower than Patrick, but as he gets closer, we're like, yeah, guess what? He's probably more like a 3 now. And as he gets closer, then he's probably closer to a 4 now. Of course, that's not seeing any awareness things or whatnot, but we see that by racing close and seeing how many incidences they have, and the guy that's chucking it into against each other and wrecking each other, we know that hey, that guy's not really ready to race with NASA yet either. But it's just going to be set up for everybody to use. So hopefully we can get some of the East Coast guys to jump in and have some fun, including yourself, and get together. We have it set up so that the West Coast guys can also join. But if the West Coast guys don't join in much, then we'll probably take it back a little bit of time period. So it's right now it's set for Central Time 2 to 10 p.m. and on both of those days, which ends up being 11 p.m. finish for you guys. But we'll contemplate whether we run that
And
1 hour sooner, so that it's not quite
are
so
you
late
running
for you
it
guys.
right now?
It has been going on. We've been doing it for a couple of months now. I like I said, I originally had it set up for my TA2 client Barry Bowes that unfortunately recently passed away, and for Patrick, and that kind of transitioned into like I said, Jared Audrick earlier, and Tristan McKee and some of our SLR TA2 guys to jump in, and but we're going to continue that for both of these guys, and for our TA2 and GR86 people to get on and practice. But again, mostly advertising it to our NASA people. There are 90% NASA people on this league, and just trying to get more
Awesome.
people in it.
I know some East Coasters that are going to be hip to join. So we have a lot of leagues over the winter. It's officially, well, for racers, it's our off season. We're not racing right now. So, yeah.
Not in Texas.
I know. But when I'll talk about that when we're done recording. Let me get to the closing segment here. So I wasn't going to do it, but I've decided since both of you are on, I'm going to do it. So, all right.
Here we go. I'm braced and ready to go.
I want to hear Scott's version of this first because of his position with NASA in Texas specifically, but then also being a coach. What is your favorite racer excuse?
Tell them about the wheel.
Racer excuse. I had a couple funny ones just recently, so I'm going to use the recent one. I had two people say something about arrow wash, like just recently. I'm like, what? Arrow wash? Like, there's no way that you made that mistake because of you got behind a car and you went flying off the racetrack because you had arrow wash. Like, so that's my current one. But my absolute pet peeve, and all of the instructors in Texas for the last decade know that nobody is passing from HPD 1 to 2 if they're shuffle steering and don't have their hands 9 and 3. So that's probably what Patrick is referring to. But I actually want to hear what Patrick is thinking over there right now.
No, he has outside the impound. They have a wheel that you can spin with all the different excuses.
That's great. Oh, yeah, right. We totally do. I forgot who the heck built that and put that there,
It's
Beck.
Carver. It's got to be Carver.
Who did? Parmalee did
Parmalee
it.
did.
It's Parmalee's.
Oh, I need a
Even
picture
better.
of that. I need a picture
great.
of that.
Oh, I'm sure we
my
can give you a
favorite one
picture, but
is
it's
my favorite one is Scott Adams told me to do it.
Oh my God. It's totally a thing. Like people walk up and like, hey, Scott said I could do this.
Yeah.
I don't even know who that was that said that. But they say it all the time.
Has anybody come up to
great.
you and been like, Scott told me I could do it. And they don't know they're talking to Scott.
I have actually. I definitely have. It hasn't been recent, but I have 100% had somebody walk up to me and said, Scott said that I could do this.
So it's a wheel that you can spin, and then like one excuse is, oh, I had too much traffic. Oh, I had, no front grip, or it's just a bunch of different dumb excuses that people give for their mistakes or whatever. But it's still pretty cool. Everybody should have it in their region for sure.
Oh, we're really good.
Yeah, and it sits an impound right next to the trailer.
Yeah.
The wheel.
We're really good at coming up with our own, so
it's great.
I don't need help.
Yeah, we can send one to you. I'll donate one. I'll buy one for you guys for your region. Just got to make sure you bring it in your trailer every week.
Yeah, no worries. That's easy. So, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on. Patrick, who do you need to thank for supporting you in the 86 Cup?
The U.S. Money Reserve, the company I work for sure, as well as Hefner and Associates, as well as Scott Adams Driver Development for sure, in NASA, Texas. They've been my biggest supporters for sure.
It's not a journey your bank account wants to take alone. So I'm sure. I don't even know. I didn't even want to ask how much it was. So
yeah, we'll save that for another podcast.
All right, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having us.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.